of your fellow comrades. And if if you keep it too hidden, uh, you're looked at, well, you're being biased because we heard that that's your room, that's where your PC plays at. So you're a biased staff member and etc. So I think uh, I think it's really important that the players know exactly what staff are doing, and I think that would help with balance and trust, and then the players will trust what staff is trying to do. So if we're trying to rebuild a certain race, we're we're doing it, like, at least for me, I did it because I literally wanted to fix that specific race it and the overall balance in the whole game. And it wasn't because I wanted to make someone more pumped or I wanted to, change gameplay. It was specifically because I literally wanted to fix those people. But the players need to understand that they should trust the staff member when they're going to do this. And that's what the balance really, you really have to put that forward so that the players can actually help you rather than work against you. And that was a huge problem.
I can imagine. Um, and where can you think of, any direct changes to the game that you had a significant amount of input on, in DFC?
Well, we had, like I said, as an RM for Chaos, players were under the assumption that RMs were allowed to do anything in the realm. They were just, but we weren't. We nothing. I couldn't even change a jump to say a climb without letting Anis's know. Literally. And anything that I had to do, or that I wanted to do, had to go through the GM. And it it was just, it made it very difficult for whenever I would do changes. So when we did finally do changes, what did we rebuild? We rebuild the Lizzie's, but you know what? That wasn't even me. That was well, what's her face before me? She she had implemented it, and then when I came on as RM, I sort of took over, and that was, believe it or not, that was Anis's idea. That had nothing to do with my idea. Anis's, and everybody in the game thought that Nania did, is making everybody pumped. I had nothing to do with it. I just implemented it. And I think we rebuild the ogres as well, and right, yeah, and same thing. Again, that wasn't my idea. That was all Anis's, and I didn't have anything to do with it, other than implementing it. The only large things that I actually did on my own, of course, with the GM, was the quests that I did for Chaos, Evo, and then I was working on Goods quest at the time that I left, I believe.
And then, do you feel that there were things in the game that were glaring errors to you as far as balance or features for the players themselves, that should have changed but never did?
Should have changed. Um, I don't know. Do you have anything
Well,
specific?
just to kind of throw it out there, there's a recent discussion that kind of took place between a couple of players about adding a class to Evil that was a ranged class that could also volley arrows, like the other two realms, and that's basically saying that Evil was known for not having a volley class. Was that something? Was that a prevalent issue back then? Is that something that you remember?
Um, Yeah, you know what? I as a staff member and even as a PC, I really like change. I like to see games evolve, and I found DFC was very stagnant in the game process. And I mean, it never changed ever. And I would have loved to have seen some real big changes. Just even just to test, even just to play around with things. Sorry, I don't mind that kind of. Actually, I look forward to that kind of change in games that I play, and I think that every realm should have a chance at that. You know, changing this or up, or changing light or dark, or doing, just to play with it. Why not? What's it really going to hurt in the long run, right? I mean,
That's
it's
true.
not, right?
Yeah, in testing, it's basically where you find, the pudding, the proof in the pudding. So you might as well, allow the people that are wanting to play the game so much that you're trying to improve or change, be the ones that help determine whether, light is too strong or, a volley class, for example. Um, what about What about things that were planned by the GM or by the powers that be that were above the GM in the background? Was there anything kind of big or anything crazy or anything at all that was planned for DFC, in the long run that just never ultimately ended up happening?
Hmm. I think no, not as far as I know. Um, I mean, I think I think the developers really wanted to have a lot more classes, though. I do. And if you go through the logs, you'll see, oh, there's a gazillion different classes in there. And so I think that's sort of the road they wanted to go on. They wanted to add more and more to it. I'm not so sure what happened. I think uh, uh, whatever Dark Age of Camelot got in the way, as we all knew it would happen. But overall, yeah, I really think that they wanted to start adding new classes all the time as a continuous feature almost. And I think that would have been a good idea. But that's just me though. Oh, I have to mention though, is one thing that I miss about DF, and what I was actually trying to convince uh, Mike Morris or Morris to bring back boot camp. I just I really believed in boot camp. I think that was one thing that DFC was missing. That was just honestly my own personal opinion, and it was like a 50-50 for all staffers. Some hated the idea, some really liked the idea, but I really, really wanted that. I would have done anything to get boot camp back into there because I think I hated the idea that people would go in and literally make a level 50 character in like a day, and I hated it. And I really thought that people should have to work to get into their clan, into the realm, because I mean it is an RPG in a way, and I think you should show, from your guild master or clan master, that you're able and willing to work for that clan, and you should go in, and it might have even helped a little bit with balance. Who knows? But I would have loved to see that.
Some very good points there. And So how about when you first kind of felt the ominous ending of the game approaching? What was it like from your perspective to kind of go through you know, drastic changes, and what were some of the changes that led to the shutdown of the game?
Well, this one here, I feel a little guilty for. I feel like it's partly my fault. I know it's not, but I feel like it is. I left in 2004, so definitely before the actual end of the game. But when I got Anisys fired, I I was just so frustrated. There was absolutely no staff on, and I was running at about, I think at that point I was running at 5 months by myself up there. I had a couple guides who would come on that I would get to do the appeals, and I would teach them a little bit about quests and whatever I could teach them, and that was about it. I mean, I was extremely lonely, and I was just so frustrated that no other staff. And if I did see Bress come on, he'd come on and he was completely quiet. Like he wouldn't say a word. Sometimes I think sometimes I have a feeling like someone else was on his account or something. It was really weird watching him because I'd sort of spy on him a little bit and because I never trust Bress. And I got to the point where, well, something has to change. People were really frustrated. Anis had just previously sent around naked, nudie pictures of herself, and I was so choked that this woman could uh, just leak these all over to all these little 12-year-olds and 10-year-olds, these little boys. And I was, I'm 48 now, so I was a woman then, and and I was just disgusted that she would actually do this to these little boys. And so I contacted Mythic and I told them that the staff member, their GM, was doing this. And at first they didn't take me serious, um, and it took a while before they would respond. And it was terrible. And just I was so angry at them. And so I sent them a letter stating that, you know what, it wouldn't be a wise decision if the rest of the world knew that Mythic was harboring someone who was a diddler in a way. I don't know, but that's just sort of how I said it in my email. And bam, all of a sudden, Morris gets a hold of me. And he's asking all sorts of questions, and he's telling me, well, I want you to tell me who exactly is on staff and send me logs and all of this. And, Ziana, however you pronounce her name, I absolutely hated her. I'm sorry, but she just was not staff material. And she screwed up so many times, like just so many times. And I'd have to run around after her and fix everything. And it was I just was so frustrated. And so I tell Morris all of this, and then he's like, well, so Ziana came on one day, and I said, and I was waiting and waiting for Morris to jump on or do something. And this is 2 months into this conversation, and Anisys is still GM. And finally I say to Zian, well, I said, well, it's not too long before, who knows what will happen to Anisys. And and then all of a sudden, next thing I know, I guess she got a hold of Anisys. Anisys comes on and bans me. I'm freaking because now I'm banned. And so I scream and yell and I'm calling Morris, and he's like, okay, he jumps on finally. He unbans me and he bans Anisys, and bam, everything starts to change. And Zian comes on and starts telling him all these lies because Zian or Anisys had phone numbers for Brian and for Morris and etc. And I couldn't get any. And I was trying everything. I was asking everybody for phone numbers because I really had to talk with Mythic rather than typing a name. And because Zian was starting to say,